If you'd asked me last month, I'd have said my life was pretty close to perfect. Decent job. Decent apartment? Decent girlfriend, if you count dating your boss as a flex and not a red flag. I was Ryan Carter, project manager at Sloan Tech, and Sloan herself was my girlfriend. Correction. Sloan was my CEO girlfriend. Correction again. Sloan was my CEO ex-girlfriend as of 9/17 this morning. It started with a text. Sloan, can you come to my office? Now. I thought it was about the quarterly numbers. Or maybe the fact that I'd left my coffee mug in her car again. I didn't expect to walk in and see her sitting across from Eli, the new intern, all baby face and nervous energy, while she scrolled through her phone like she was bored. Close the door? Ryan, she said, not looking up. Eli looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. I closed the door. Sloan set her phone down. I'm going to make this quick. Eli and I are together now, I blinked. You're what? She sighed as if I was the one being difficult. We've been seeing each other. It's new, but it's real. I think it's best if you and I end things, Eli coughed. Sorry, man. I stared at Sloan. You're dumping me. For an intern, she nodded. It's not personal. It's just time for a change. I almost laughed. Not personal? You're my boss. You're his boss, she shrugged. HR will handle the paperwork. You can take the rest of the day, or the week, whatever you need. I looked at Eli. He looked at his shoes. I looked at Sloan. She looked at her phone. I left. The news spread through the office faster than a fire drill. By the time I reached my desk, people were already whispering. Did you hear? She dumped him for Eli. Poor guy. Guess he's not as irreplaceable as he thought. I packed my things in silence. No one stopped me, not even Sloan. I walked out of Sloan Tech with a cardboard box, a bruised ego, and the distinct feeling that I'd just been erased from my own life. I didn't go home. I went to the bar down the street, ordered a whiskey, and stared at my phone. No texts from Sloan, one from Eli. Sorry again, man. Hope we can still be friends? I turned my phone off. By midnight, I was still at the bar. The bartender, a woman with tired eyes and a tattoo of a book on her wrist, poured me another drink. Rough day? She asked. I laughed. You could say that, she nodded. You look like someone who just got dumped. By my CEO girlfriend. For an intern, she whistled. That's a new one, I raised my glass. To new beginnings, she clinked her glass against mine. To better endings. I stumbled home at 2 a.m., packed a suitcase, and stared at my apartment. It looked smaller than I remembered. I left a note for my landlord, grabbed my keys, and walked out. No plan, no job, no girlfriend, just me, a suitcase, and the city lights fading behind me. I drove for hours. No music. No destination. Just the hum of the highway and the ache in my chest. At sunrise, I pulled off the interstate into a small coastal town I'd never heard of. I checked into a cheap inn, dropped my suitcase on the bed, and collapsed. I slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, I felt nothing. Not relief, not hope, just empty. I wandered the town, looking for coffee. Found a tiny cafe next to a dusty old bookstore. The sign read, Harper's Books and Brews. I stepped inside, mostly to escape the rain. The woman behind the counter looked up, eyebrow raised. You lost? I shrugged. Maybe, she nodded. Coffee's on the left, books on the right. Try not to spill anything. I smiled for the first time in days. Maybe this was rock bottom, or maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something I never saw coming. I woke up to the sound of rain and the world's worst pillow. The inn was the kind of place that still used real keys and smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old carpet. My suitcase sat in the corner, looking as lost as I felt. I checked my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. Not even a spam email from Sloan Tech HRI was officially off the grid. I wandered out into the drizzle, hands in my pockets, and found the only cafe open before 9 a.m. Harper's Books and Brews. The bell over the door jingled as I stepped inside. The place was a mess of mismatched chairs, overstuffed bookshelves, and the smell of burnt espresso. Harper was behind the counter, hair in a messy bun, reading a paperback with a cracked spine. She looked up. "You again?" I nodded. "I survived the night," she smirked. "Congrats. Coffee?" "Please, black." She poured a cup, slid it across the counter. "You look like you could use a job," I laughed. "You hiring?" She shrugged. "Not really, but I could use someone to move boxes. My back's shot." I glanced at the stack of boxes by the window. "I can do boxes," she eyed me. "You don't look like you've ever moved anything heavier than a laptop," I grinned. "You'd be surprised." I spent the morning hauling boxes of used books from the back room to the front. Harper watched, arms crossed, occasionally correcting my stacking technique. "Spines out. Always spines out. Is this a bookstore or a boot camp?" She smirked. "Both." By noon, I was sweating and out of breath. Harper handed me a bottle of water. "You're not from around here. Is it that obvious?" She nodded. "You have city shoes, and you keep checking your phone like someone's going to call." I looked down at my scuffed loafers. "Old habits." She leaned against the counter. "What brings you to our little corner of nowhere?" I hesitated. "Long story," she shrugged. "We sell those too," I laughed. "Let's just say I needed a change." She nodded, not pushing. The afternoon was slow. A few locals drifted in, bought coffee, browsed the shelves. Harper introduced me as the new guy. One old man winked. "You running from the law, son?" "Just my past," I said. He cackled. "Aren't we all?" By closing time, I'd learned 3 things. Harper's coffee was terrible, but her sarcasm was world class. The bookstore was barely staying afloat. I hadn't thought about Sloan or Eli in hours. That felt like progress. Harper locked the door, flipped the sign to closed. "Thanks for the help," she said. "Anytime." She eyed me. "You got a place to stay?" "The inn," she nodded. "It's not much, but it's safe. Don't let the wallpaper scare you." I smiled. "I've survived worse." She hesitated, then handed me a paperback. "Here, on the house." I looked at the cover. "The Great Gatsby." "Classic," I said. She shrugged. "Everyone deserves a second act." I walked back to the inn in the rain, book tucked under my arm. My phone buzzed. A text from Eli. "Eli. Hope you're okay, man. Sloan's been asking about you." I deleted it. That night, I sat on the lumpy bed reading Gatsby by lamplight. I thought about Sloan, about the city, about everything I'd lost, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a failure. I felt free. The next morning, I showed up at the bookstore before Harper opened. She raised an eyebrow. "You're early." "I need something to do." She handed me a broom. "Start with the front steps." I swept in the rain, humming to myself. A woman walked by, umbrella spinning, and smiled at me. "Welcome to town," she said. I grinned. "Thanks." By noon, I'd fixed a leaky faucet, restocked the romance section, and learned Harper's entire life story. Well, the parts she was willing to share. Her dad had run the shop before her. He'd passed away last year. She was trying to keep it alive, but the bills were piling up. "Why not sell?" I asked. She shook her head. "It's all I have left of him," I nodded. "I get it." She looked at me, really looked. "Do you?" I hesitated. "Maybe more than you think." That night, as I walked back to the inn, I realized something. Rock bottom wasn't so bad. At least here, I had a view. And maybe, just maybe, a reason to start climbing again. I kept coming back. At first, it was for the free coffee and the excuse to avoid my own thoughts. But after a few days, I realized it was Harper. She never asked about my past. Never pried. Never even Googled me as far as I could tell. She just handed me a stack of books and said, "Alphabetize these. And don't mess up the Dickens section." I grinned. "You trust me with the classics?" She shrugged. You look like you could use some culture. We fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for moving boxes, fixing leaky pipes, and arguing about whether Hemingway was overrated. Afternoons were for coffee, sarcasm, and the occasional customer who wandered in looking for a book they'd lost 20 years ago. Harper had a way of making everyone feel at home, even me. One afternoon, I found her in the back room, surrounded by stacks of unsorted paperbacks. She was muttering to herself. Hair falling into her eyes. Need a hand? I asked. She looked up, startled. You're still here? I shrugged. I have nowhere else to be. She tossed me a box cutter. Careful. Those are first editions. I opened a box, pulled out a battered copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Classic, I said. She smiled. My dad's favorite. I handed it to her. Our fingers brushed. She didn't pull away. We worked in silence for a while. Finally, she said, You're not like most guys who end up here. I raised an eyebrow. How many guys end up here? She grinned. More than you'd think. Most of them are running from something. I nodded. I guess I am too. She didn't ask what. She just handed me another box. That night, we closed up together. She locked the door, flipped the sign, and leaned against the counter. Want a drink? She asked. I hesitated. Is this a test? She laughed. No, it's just been a long week. We walked to the bar down the street. Sat in a booth, ordered cheap beer, and talked about everything except the city. She told me about her dad, how he'd built the shop from nothing, how he'd taught her to love stories, how he'd left her with more debt than memories. I told her about my old job, my old life, my old girlfriend. Though I left out the part about Sloan being my CEO, she didn't press, she just listened. On the walk back, she stopped under a streetlight. You're not staying, are you? She asked. I looked at her. I don't know, she nodded. That's okay. Most people don't. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck, so I just stood there, watching the rain start to fall. She smiled, soft and sad. See you tomorrow, city boy. She walked away, leaving me standing in the glow of the streetlight, wondering when I'd last felt this scene. The next morning, I showed up early. Harper was already there, sweeping the front steps. She looked up, surprised. You're back, I grinned. You still need help with the Dickens section. She rolled her eyes, but I saw the smile tug at her lips. Fine, but if you mess up Great Expectations, you're fired. I saluted. Yes, boss. She laughed, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't running anymore. I was staying, not for the coffee, not for the books, for her. I never planned to stay, but every day, the idea of leaving felt a little less urgent. Harper's bookstore was a mess. Leaky pipes, flickering lights, a register that only worked if you hit it twice. But it was alive in a way my old life never was. And Harper? She was the most alive thing in it. We started working on a plan to save the shop. Social media, I suggested one morning, sipping her terrible coffee. You need an online presence, she groaned. I hate hashtags, I grinned. You hate everything that isn't made of paper. She rolled her eyes. Fine, but you're in charge of the internet, I saluted. Yes, ma'am. We spent afternoons brainstorming events, book clubs, poetry nights. Used book swaps. Harper's friends, an artist, a retired teacher, a local baker, joined in, bringing ideas and snacks, the shop filled with laughter, the smell of cinnamon rolls and the sound of Harper's voice. Sharp and warm all at once, one evening, after a long day of moving shelves, we sat on the floor, backs against the counter. Harper handed me a mug of tea. You ever miss the city? I shrugged. Sometimes. But not the reasons I left, she nodded. You don't talk about it much, I hesitated. There's not much to say. I was with someone who made me feel small. I let her. Harper looked at me, eyes soft. You're not small, I smiled. You don't know me that well, she nudged my shoulder. I know enough. We sat in silence, the kind that felt comfortable. Finally, she said, "You ever think about starting over?" I looked at her. "Every day," she smiled, a little sad. "Me too." The next week, we hosted our first event, a blind date with a book night. Harper wrapped books in brown paper, scribbled clues on the covers, and watched as the town's residents tried to guess what they were getting. It was chaos. It was perfect. At the end of the night, Harper collapsed into a chair laughing. "That was a disaster," she said. I grinned. "It was a hit." She looked at me, hair falling into her eyes. "You're good for this place," I shrugged. "Maybe this place is good for me." She smiled, and for a moment, I thought about kissing her, but I didn't. Not yet. Later, as we closed up, Harper lingered by the door. "Thanks for today," she said. "Anytime." She hesitated. "You're not just running from something, are you?" I shook my head. "Not anymore." She smiled, relief flickering in her eyes. "Good, because I think I'd miss you if you left." I swallowed. "I'd miss you too." She locked the door, and we stood in the quiet, the world outside fading away. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Not the desperate kind. The real kind. The kind that sneaks up on you when you're not looking. The kind that feels like home. I thought I'd left Sloane behind. Turns out, she was harder to shake than I'd hoped. Every time I checked my phone, there she was, her face on a magazine cover. Her name trending on LinkedIn, her new power couple photos with Eli, the intern. I tried to ignore it, but the past has a way of finding you. Even in a town with one stoplight. One afternoon, I was restocking the mystery section when Harper poked her head in. "You've been staring at your phone for 10 minutes. You waiting for a sign from the universe?" I pocketed it. "Just old habits." She raised an eyebrow. "You know, you're allowed to let go." I forced a smile. "Working on it." That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Eli. "Hey man, Sloane's worried about you. She asked me to check in. Hope you're good." I stared at the screen, equal parts annoyed and amused. Harper saw my face. "Bad news?" I shrugged. "Just the past, refusing to stay in the past." She nodded. "You want to talk about it?" I hesitated. Not really, she didn't push. The next day, Eli showed up at the bookstore. He looked even younger than I remembered, hair flopping into his eyes, hands shoved in his pockets. "Hey, Ryan," he said. Awkward. "Eli, what brings you here?" He shuffled his feet. "Sloane sent me." "She's worried." "She said you kind of disappeared." I laughed. "I didn't disappear. I just left." He nodded. "She misses you, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "She has a funny way of showing it." He looked down. "She's not as happy as she pretends," I sighed. "Neither am I, but I'm working on it." He smiled, small and genuine. "I hope you find what you're looking for." I clapped him on the shoulder. "Me too, kid." After Eli left, Harper found me in the back room. "You okay?" I nodded. "Just ghosts." She leaned against the door frame. "You can't build something new if you're still living in the ruins." I looked at her. "You ever get tired of being right?" She grinned. "Never." That night, I scrolled through Sloane's Instagram one last time. Photos of her and Eli at galas, on yachts in places I'd never been invited. I felt a pang of jealousy, then let it go. I turned off my phone, set it in a drawer, and left it there. The next morning, Harper handed me a cup of coffee. "Fresh start," she said. I smiled. "Yeah, fresh start." She looked at me, eyes searching. "You sure you're ready?" I nodded. "I think so." She smiled, and for the first time, I believed it. The past wasn't gone, but it was finally behind me. And for the first time, I was ready to see what was waiting ahead. The notice came on a Thursday, a letter from the landlord taped to the front door. "Rent overdue. Final notice. Eviction in 30 days. Harper stared at it, jaw clenched. I read it twice, hoping the words would change. They didn't. "We're out of time," she said, voice flat. I tried to sound braver than I felt. We're not done yet, she shook her head. Ryan, I appreciate the optimism, but unless you have a secret stash of cash, we're sunk. I grinned. No cash, but maybe a plan, she raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. We spent the afternoon brainstorming. Book sales. Bake sales. A readathon. Nothing felt big enough. Then Harper's friend June suggested, what about a town festival? Something weird. Something only this place would do. Harper's eyes lit up. A literary scavenger hunt, I nodded. With prizes and food. And music, she grinned. And costumes. People love costumes. We worked late into the night, making flyers, calling local businesses, begging for donations. Harper was a force, charming, relentless, a little terrifying. I watched her rally the town, and for the first time, I saw what her father must have seen. A woman who refused to give up. The day of the festival, the bookstore was packed, kids in wizard hats, teens dressed as detectives, old men quoting Shakespeare. Harper ran the show clipboard in hand, barking orders and laughing louder than I'd ever heard. I manned the grill, flipping burgers and telling bad jokes. People bought books, ate cupcakes and danced in the street. For a few hours, the shop felt alive again. As the sun set, Harper found me behind the counter. She was flushed, hair wild, eyes shining. We did it, she said. Breathless, I grinned. You did it, she shook her head. We did it. She looked at me, really looked. Thank you, Ryan, for not letting me give up. I shrugged, suddenly shy. You saved me first. She smiled, soft and real. For a moment, I thought about kissing her, but I didn't. Not yet. That night, we counted the money. It wasn't enough to pay off everything, but it was enough to buy time. Harper leaned back, exhausted. We're not out of the woods, she said. I nodded. But we're not alone either. She looked at me, eyes full of something I couldn't name. Why are you really here, Ryan? I hesitated. Because I want to be, she smiled, and for the first time I believed it. The next morning, the landlord stopped by. He looked at the crowd, the decorations, the stack of receipts. He shook his head, almost smiling. Never seen this place so busy, he said. Harper stood tall. We're not done yet, he nodded. You've got another month. Let's see what you can do. After he left, Harper hugged me. It was quick, awkward, but it meant everything. Thank you, she whispered. I hugged her back, holding on a little longer than I needed to. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, not just in the shop, but with her. I should have known the past wouldn't stay gone. It arrived on a Saturday morning, in the form of a black SUV and a woman in heels that didn't belong on Main Street. Sloane. She stepped out, sunglasses on, hair perfect, looking like she'd never set foot outside a boardroom. I was sweeping the front steps when she spotted me. Ryan, she called, voice sharp and familiar. I froze. Sloane. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Can we talk? We sat in the cafe next door. She ordered a latte, barely touched it. I made a mistake, she said, voice low. Eli, it wasn't real. I thought I wanted excitement, but I just wanted someone safe. That was you, I stared at her. You dumped me. In front of him. In front of everyone, she winced. I know, I was stupid. I'm sorry, I shook my head. Why are you here? She looked at me, eyes shining. I want you back. Come home, Ryan, I'll make it right. I'll give you your job back. We can start over, I laughed, bitter. You think it's that easy? She reached for my hand. Please. I miss you. Through the window, I saw Harper walking by. She stopped, saw us, and her face changed. She turned away before I could call out. My heart dropped. Sloane squeezed my hand. Ryan, please. I need you. I pulled away. You don't need me. You need someone to fix your image. She flinched. That's not fair. I stood up. Neither was what you did. She looked up at me, desperate. Just think about it. I left her there, latte untouched, heart pounding. I found Harper in the bookstore, stacking books with more force than necessary. Harper. She didn't look at me. You don't owe me an explanation. I stepped closer. It's not what it looked like, she shrugged. You don't have to choose me, Ryan. I'm not going to compete. I reached for her hand. She pulled away. I'm not Sloane, she said, voice trembling. I don't want to be someone's second choice, I shook my head. You're not. You never were, she looked at me, eyes full of hurt. Then prove it. She walked into the back room, door closing softly behind her. I stood there, surrounded by books and silence. For the first time, I realized I couldn't run from my past. I had to face it, and I had to choose. I found Sloane waiting for me outside the bookstore. She looked out of place, arms folded, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Ryan, she said, voice soft. Did you think about what I said? I nodded. I did. She stepped closer. Come home. We can fix this. I'll make it right. I shook my head. You can't fix what you broke. She frowned. I made a mistake. I was scared. I thought you'd always be there, I sighed. That's the problem, Sloane. You never saw me. You saw someone safe, someone easy to leave. She took off her sunglasses, eyes shining. I see you now. I looked away. It's too late. She reached for my hand. I pulled back. I'm not coming back, I said. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net. She blinked, stunned. You're choosing her? I nodded. I'm choosing myself. And yeah, I'm choosing Harper. Because she sees me. Because she makes me want to be better. Because she never made me feel small. Sloane's lips trembled. You'll regret this. I shook my head. No, I regret not leaving sooner. She stared at me, then turned and walked away. I watched her go, feeling lighter than I had in years. I went back inside. Harper was shelving books, face unreadable. I stood in front of her, heart pounding. I chose you, I said quietly. She looked at me, wary. Why? Because you're real. Because you make me want to stay. Because I'm done running from my past. She hesitated. I don't want to be second choice, Ryan. I shook my head. You're not. You're the only choice that ever made sense. She studied me, searching for a lie. I let her. Finally, she nodded. Then prove it, I smiled. I will. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready to fight for the life I wanted, not the one I left behind. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I made coffee, grabbed a notebook, and started planning. No more running. No more waiting for someone else to fix things. If I wanted a life here, with Harper, I had to fight for it. I showed up at the bookstore before Harper unlocked the door. She looked surprised. You're early, I grinned. I have a plan, she raised an eyebrow. Let's hear it. I laid out my ideas. A weekly book club. A local author signing. A partnership with the bakery for coffee and pastries. A kids read free program to bring in families. Harper listened, arms crossed, but I saw the hope flicker in her eyes. You really want to do this? She asked. I nodded. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled, small but real. Okay, let's try. We spent the day making flyers, calling local businesses, and posting on every community board we could find. I called in favors from old friends, set up a website, and even convinced the local radio station to run a spot. Harper watched me work, a mix of amusement and disbelief on her face. You're relentless, she said. I shrugged. I have something to prove. The first event was a mess. The author was late. The coffee machine broke. A kid spilled juice on the romance section, but people came. They bought books. They laughed. They stayed. And Harper, she glowed. After everyone left, we sat on the floor, exhausted. Harper leaned her head on my shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. I wrapped my arm around her. I told you, I'm not running anymore. She looked up at me, eyes shining. Promise? I nodded. Promise. She kissed me soft and slow, and for the first time I believed it. I was home. The bookstore was busier than I'd ever seen it. Kids ran between the shelves, parents sipped coffee, and Harper's friends filled the air with laughter and the smell of fresh cinnamon rolls. I stood behind the counter, watching Harper help a little girl pick out her first chapter book. She knelt down, smiled, and handed the girl a battered copy of Charlotte's Web. The girl's eyes lit up. Harper winked at me. I felt something in my chest loosen, a knot I'd carried for years. After the last customer left, Harper locked the door and leaned against it, grinning. "We survived another Saturday," she said. I laughed. "Barely." She walked over, wrapped her arms around my waist, and rested her head on my chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For staying. For fighting. For believing in this place and in me." I kissed the top of her head. "You saved me first," she looked up, eyes shining. "I think we saved each other." That night, we sat on the back steps, watching the sun set over the town. Harper leaned into me, her hand in mine. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked. I thought about Sloan, the city, the endless meetings and empty victories. I shook my head. "Not even a little," she smiled. "Good, because I like you better here," I grinned. "Me too." A few weeks later, Sloan called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She sounded different, tired, but softer. "Hey, Ryan," she said. "Hey, Sloan. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Me too," she hesitated. "I hope you're happy." I looked at Harper, laughing with a customer in the next room. "I am," I said. "I really am," Sloan sighed, relieved. "Good. I am too." We said goodbye, and for the first time it felt like closure. The bookstore kept growing. We started a monthly open mic night, a local authors book club, a summer reading camp for kids. Harper's friends became my friends. The town became my home. One evening, as we closed up, Harper found me shelving books. She wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Do you ever think about how you got here?" she asked. I smiled. "Every day," she laughed. "You know, you never told me what you were running from." I turned to face her. I was running from myself, from a life that never fit, from a love that was never really love. She cupped my face in her hands. "And now," I kissed her, slow and certain. "Now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." We sat on the floor, surrounded by books and the soft glow of string lights. Harper leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm glad you found me," she whispered. I smiled. "I think you found me," she laughed. "Maybe we found each other." As the months passed, the shop became more than a business. It became a home, a place where people came to find stories, and sometimes, themselves. A place where I learned that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up. It's about staying. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. Sometimes I think about Sloan, about the life I left behind. I don't regret it. Not anymore. Because losing her led me here. To Harper. To this messy, beautiful, imperfect life. To the love I didn't know I deserved. One night, as we closed up, Harper handed me a book. On the inside cover, she'd written, "For Ryan, for the man who finally came home." I looked at her. "Heart full. I love you," I said. She smiled, eyes shining. "I love you too," and for the first time I believed it.